Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's happening here in the greater Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten, trying to stay warm and out of those March winds that have come early or stayed around all year. But anyhow, with me today is the Colonel of the fishing game, Kevin Jordan, and it's a pleasure to have you back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Well, it's always a pleasure having you here.
Yeah.
What's going on over there? I hear they're picking on you left and right, your department.
Not bad. I mean, it's a pretty typical legislative year. They're not all bad bills. They're people that are trying to help. Some of them will be, I think, workable ideas. Some might not be. But you get that every year. Every year I've been involved, and it's going on 10 now, I think, that I've been over there. It's kind of the same type of stuff going on, so you got to stay on top of it. As you know, those hearings change and come up and get scheduled quickly, and things happen very fast. So,
but why do they think you're making more money than they want some of the money, or what?
No, this year the big push has been to better fund search and rescue. So you got 3 or 4 bills in an effort to do that.
Yeah.
And then they want to change some license makeups around to give people a little more access. Veterans to licensing, which I think we worked out. And then they've got some hunting and some trapping bills, which we have every year. Some pro, some against. So I think we're working on, I think we had 15 bills that we were watching, legislative bills that we were watching, so monitoring and testifying to. So it's a lot of work, as you know, and it comes in the fury in January and February. You gotta stay on top of it. I hope people pay attention to it. I personally didn't until I became involved in it, and I think it's important for people to kind of monitor what's going on over there. Not relying just on the news, but to go online and do a little research to see what's happening. I think it's important for people to understand some of the different bills, some of the different goals, and who's bringing them. I think is key. So I'd recommend your viewers to go online and take a look at that stuff.
Well, I know I've been following it, and of course I'm on a new committee this year, so I've been trying to figure it out. Every once in a while I see these little headlines that say the public or the House is trying to make more inroads into the fishing game or something.
Right.
It's like,
yeah.
What do they care? What the heck's that?
Well, they're looking for funding mechanisms. We're still one of the last self-funded agencies, which no longer works really.
Yeah.
Your income or your income for any agency doesn't really stay with your expenditures the way they go up these days. So they're constantly looking or having study committees to look at our finances, which has been an ongoing battle ever since I've been there. So I don't know the solution to that other than making it a general fund agency, which there is some reluctance to do. People's taxes are high enough.
Yeah, I know.
And a lot of people think that tax money goes into fishing game. It's important for them to understand that it does not. It's all user fee or license-based fees that operate this. So a lot of taxpayers get benefits from it. If they have an animal problem or they have a rabies problem, we respond to those calls. But if they don't have a hunting or a fishing license, they haven't got any financial support or very little financial support in the agency. And so that's a problem. They're trying to find a better way to fund that.
One is the thing that I've been hearing a lot about the North Country or North sector there about, I know the officers were given permission to, or given the rights to have firearms and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But has there been, I thought I heard some talk that they didn't like that too much, or they thought they were competing or whatever, or they shouldn't be doing that, or is there something maybe I misunderstood or something? No.
Yeah, I think so, because I'm not familiar with any issues involving that. You mean with the officers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything about that. The only concern, they have some firearm bills in the legislature that we kind of watch. We always watch for hunting and for safety reasons, but I'm not aware of anything in the North Country.
It came out last year when we had our state session up in Laconia. Because the year before that it was up in Shelburne, but
oh yeah,
and there was some talk about that, and I don't remember what it was. But, and I thought, well, The legislature granted them their powers, so
Oh no, the powers have worked. You granted us motor vehicle powers 2 years ago, so they now have general abilities to enforce all laws, as does state police, and that has been a great positive, I think, for both the citizens and for us. So it keeps everybody safer. It makes everybody work on the same team. It just makes sense to pool all our resources, to try and achieve all the same goals. Keeping people safe. So
now they also too didn't they just recently defeat the hunting season on the wolf or something?
Bobcat.
Bobcat.
Yeah, we had a big debate last year. There were some people in the state who were in favor of creating a bobcat season. The science of bobcats, and this is debatable, but our biologists over there who had done a number of, I don't remember the exact number, but it was a multi-year study on the populations of bobcats, certainly determined our populations would stand a small hunting season. I would agree with that. We see a lot of them. The average person doesn't, because they're a very timid animal, but we have a good, healthy population of bobcats. And so there was another group on the other side of this coin that didn't want the season to come.
Yeah, I remember that.
And we pushed forward with it, I believe, and at the end, we went to the Joint Legislative Committee to try and get a rule established to allow for a limited season, and we failed to get that through popular vote, which kind of is really what the system is made to do. So the season was defeated. I think I can see that coming back in the future. I don't know when or what kind of power, but I can tell you the science supports it. Socially, there's a lot of opposition to it, and I understand that.
I know what it was.
Coyotes, we've had some issues.
That's the one
yes.
that's been on recently.
Yeah.
Because it was just in the paper recently about a coyote and
Sunday.
a coy dog or something. Yeah, so I remember seeing that.
Yeah, well, the coyotes that we have here are all eastern coyotes. There was a time years and years ago when there were a mix between coyotes and domestic dogs, but that strain has been gone for some time. We have full-fledged eastern coyotes here, and we have a really overwhelming population of them. They're a huge predator. They're seen a lot by people. They can be problems in certain areas, so they are hunted. They have an open season on them because we have proven that their populations change very little, even by having an open season on them. So, and there's a group that do not support hunting of anything, including coyotes, and they tried, I believe this year, made a couple of attempts this year to try and close that season, and so far that's still being debated. So we'll see where that goes. There's a lot of passion on both sides of this issue, depending on where you are with it. The people up north that deal with coyotes on a regular basis support some control over their population levels, and the people down here, not all down here, but scattered people who don't see problems with coyotes support leaving them, the way they are. So you're going to see more debate to come on that issue.
See, I wouldn't know the difference either between a coyote or a wolf or whatever they are.
Well, one thing people around here don't realize is wolves are a lot larger than most people realize. An average wolf is 100 and 150 pounds.
Wow.
They're like a small deer, and people equate coyotes, which are the size of a Irish setter or a German shepherd. A wolf would be quite a bit larger than that. And they're not. I don't think it's impossible to see them here because, they have a population established in Canada, and of course we're not that far from there.
No,
so
no.
I think in the northern part of the state you might be able to see one, but they're not common, and there aren't any. Certainly, I've never seen any evidence of any down here. They're all coyotes that people are seeing. But a coyote looks very similar to a dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Quite frankly, it's hard sometimes to tell the difference. The way they stand, the way they hold their tail is kind of a telltale sign when it's a coyote. They tuck their tail between their legs because they're very timid when they're out in the open. They're also faster, probably more, certainly more able to survive in the winter months outside than most dogs. So, those are all factions that separate them from a domestic dog. But they are an aggressive predator. They will take a lot of small animals, including pets, household pets, if they're out. So, we lose cats and dogs to them every year.
Yeah.
So, and we have a very healthy population. All of New England does, really. But New Hampshire has a very popular one. Yeah.
Well, I know back a few years ago when I was on that committee that there was also some talk about the hunting of, as you know, there was somebody had controlled hunting. It was like you owned some land.
Yeah.
And they would put deer in there or whatever.
Hunting preserves.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, we had a lot of debate years ago over that.
Know.
People wanted that, and the sportsmen were pretty united in that they didn't want it.
No,
ethically, it isn't a good thing, and you know, it violates a lot of fair chase principles. Again, debatable. Some people would have a different opinion of that, but it was brought forward many, many times. We fought it all of those times, we being the department, for multiple reasons, both for the ethics and the fair chase principles, plus biologically, it's not a healthy thing to do, to mix these things in, some of these exotic breeds in with our own species.
Yeah.
If they were to escape, you could suddenly have a population of animals you can't support here or didn't plan on having that wouldn't survive here, and that would be disastrous. So we fought it, thankfully, successfully many times, and to this day you can't do it, with the exception of one park that was exempted years ago, and that was Corbin Park over in Croydon. But anywhere else in the state, it is still illegal to do that. So they're called canned hunts. They do it a lot out west. It brings in a lot of money out west for some of the big ranchers, but it's not something that we felt was appropriate for the East Coast.
I also read in the paper the other day that the moose population was increasing a little bit because they weren't as many ticks they found on some.
Yeah, they're trying to determine that now. There's a study going on as we speak. They just finished netting a bunch of them and radio collaring them, which is quite an act to accomplish. They fly over them with a helicopter, and people jump out low, and people jump out. They shoot a net out to capture them, and then jump out of the helicopter to radio collar them. So it's quite a thing to watch and be a part of. And they did a bunch of those. And so they're in the process of tracking those now, and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, these kind of winters make a difference on tick population too. This is a good winter to try and control some of that. You know, with the heavy snows and the cold weather that we've had, that should help.
Yeah.
And we're pretty confident. The biologists are pretty confident that tick infestation is one of the main factors we lost some of those populations. So and we're not in danger of those, but they are erring on the side of caution because we brought them. You know, they had a huge comeback in the state, and we don't want to lose them. So they're being very careful about it, which is smart, I think.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to see it go.
No, don't blame you. I like to read about it because now, off the subject a little bit, but how's your TV show going?
Good. Yeah, we're in the middle of our third. Well, we're like 3 sessions into our third season.
Wow.
The ratings are still incredibly high. I don't really understand it all, why they're still really high, but they are. Again, it's been very popular. I've had very few complaints. It's a lot of work, I can tell you. Editing all of those shows and controlling what goes on and when is not an easy task, but it's paid off.
So what channel is that on?
It's on Animal Planet every Sunday night at 9 o'clock.
But you have to do the editing
I do
yourself?
all of the editing. Yeah, I have the last word on the editing, and I wouldn't.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't agree to the show unless we kept that right. I felt very strongly about. I wanted control over what was aired and how it was aired, and they granted that, and the company did because they wanted it, and it's worked very well for us. So.
No, it's a half-hour show or
an hour.
An hour show.
Yeah, it's an hour show, and they run it. They're running all of last season's reruns I've been seeing on. They start at like 7 o'clock at night on the Animal Planet, whatever you have that on for your cable TV, and then at 9 o'clock is this new season premiere, new shows. We have 12 or 14 new shows that are on this year. We've seen 3 of them now, and we have 14 total to go. So yeah, it's gone very well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So where's some of the next subjects coming from? Down south?
No, we got them all over. Actually, we have this year you're going to see one of the officers get involved in an accident. That was kind of a freak thing, but he had a camera crew with him when he was hit by a 10-wheel dump truck. Dangerous, a really bad accident. Luckily, no one, or the injuries were minor, but it shows that it was live.
Yeah.
And you'll see last week, 2 weeks ago, we had worked with state police to solve a 20-year-old cold case We found a guy who was missing in the river after 20 years
Oh,
with his vehicle.
Jesus.
So that was an interesting,
I think I did
interesting
see
segment.
that in the
Yeah.
papers.
Yeah.
His vehicle was in the river?
He had driven off the road when I was a game warden. I had first gotten hired some 20 years ago,
Yeah.
and I was up there. My patrol was not far from where that happened, and he was last seen at a restaurant up north in Errol, and he stayed out very late, and he was coming south to go home, and he never made it home, was never seen again. And we combed the river back then,
Yeah.
looking for skid marks or marks where anyone had gone off there, and we think he just drove off the roads. There was no mark. But we never had the technology. We didn't have the technology or the skill level sets that we have now. This new sonar and underwater roving camera equipment that we have, which represents about $100,000 worth of equipment. We just got through a grant through Homeland Security, and I have a team of officers who have worked pretty hard to get to use it and know how to work it. And so just kind of on a training session, they went up there with some detectives that were involved in the case years ago and ran some search grids, and they found that truck.
Now, what, is it a river?
It was in the Androscoggin River.
Wait, Androscoggin River?
Yes.
Is it that deep enough for
It was deep where it was.
Yeah.
That river is not that
I was
deep,
gonna
but
say,
right where that
yeah.
truck was, it was deep enough. So even in low water conditions, the water would probably have been 5 feet above this truck. So no one ever saw it.
So was it Milan, or where was it?
It was in Errol. It would have
Errol?
been in Errol. 13-mile woods is where they
My
found it. Yeah.
God.
That was a great thing to do for the family. For 20 years,
Yeah.
they wondered where their loved one was and wondered if something, if there was foul play. And it wasn't. I mean, it was an unfortunate accident, but at least they were able to bring closure to that. So, and we got it out of the river and contacted his family. Unfortunately, his mom had died. She passed away 2 months before that, so she never knew we found him, which was sad.
Isn't that terrible?
But the rest of the family knew it, and it was good to close that case. So that equipment, it's the same equipment that we used at the tragedy last year at the fishing derby when we had 3 of those snow machines go through the ice, and we were able to get those kids out using the same equipment.
I
So
remember
it's
that.
pretty amazing equipment. It works really well. So the guys that I have operating it.
How old is this guy that you found now?
This guy was in his late 20s when he passed.
Oh,
He's not very old, just a kid.
and now he would have been in his 40s. So.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. It's just good to bring closure for the family.
But being in the river like that, was he preserved? Or?
No, but there was skeletal remains and clothing, and I think there was enough so they could make a determination that it was in fact him.
Gosh.
Yeah. And they were able to determine that there was no foul play, which has been a multi-year concern, that someone had done something to him.
Gosh.
So, yeah. So it was sad, but it was a good outcome for at least the family.
You talk about that up there in Milan, up there in Errol, but can you imagine, say, like even in Winnipesaukee or Winnisquam or Sunapee, these big lakes? What in the world would you find in there?
I know.
Really?
Yeah, you would be amazed at what's under the water.
I know it.
Winnipesaukee, I know my dive team has been in Winnipesaukee numerous times. And the one comment I hear all the time is how much fishing gear they find down there that's hooked to, the lead and the hooks that are broken off that are laying down the bottom of the lake. And you find a whole host of things that are underwater. It's kind of odd,
Then they
some of
found
the stuff.
cars.
They have old cars because years ago that was pretty common to dump old cars in the waterways. You go up and down the Connecticut River on the Vermont, New Hampshire side, you'll see where people ran cars right down over a bank years ago. That's how they got rid of them. Today we wouldn't think about doing that, but years ago they did that pretty regularly.
Wasn't the old Mount Washington down anything up there on
I've heard.
ship or something?
And there are ships down. I remember seeing one night on Channel 9. They did WMUR did a special on that on some guys that were doing treasure hunting, and they had found sunken ships. Yeah, which is interesting. I'm sure you
Yeah.
can find that in any of those major lakes where you've
Oh.
had boat traffic for years.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And it's technology like this sonar equipment that you would use to find that stuff. You wouldn't be able to do it without it. So.
What is the ice conditions right now? Is it back to safe to be on these things? I mean, like Winnipesaukee was supposedly all frozen over, but then this warm spell
Yeah.
we had in January. Would data be on there again?
What we tell people is, people ask that question a lot, and there's no good answer to that because it varies depending on the water body you're on. So what we tell people is we're in midwinter,
Yeah.
so typically you can count on a lot of it being safe enough to go out on, but we highly recommend that people test it. Test it in front of you. Go slow and test it because it can change. Ice conditions can change in a day. You could go out this morning, be out on the lake, and then come back this afternoon and find a surface you walked on this morning is suddenly thinner due to a whole host of reasons. So water currents, the winds, the air temperature. So, it's midwinter. We've had a good cold winter so far. So I would say in most places it's probably going to be okay, but it's never okay if you don't check it. You got to check it.
Those snowmobilers last year going, those kids. I mean,
I know, it was
they're
awful.
They're lucky.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Oh.
And we could have lost a lot more people. So
Well, I know.
that was
But they don't.
that was the
even
perfect storm, and we had a little bit of cold, so you got a nice shelf, literally just a shelf, and then it snowed. So if you sat on the lake and looked across it looked like it was frozen all the way across, and of course it wasn't. When open water, typically on Lake Winnipesaukee, you can see it as you approach it.
Yeah.
In this scenario, you could not. It looked like it was solid, and it wasn't. So hopefully we won't have that issue this year. That's a dangerous thing, and it's very unforgiving. You just can't swim in that cold of water.
Of course not. I'd be afraid of going under and never finding a hole to jump.
Well, that's it. That's the
Really.
thing. Those are all the things you need to worry about.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course I can't swim anyway, so I don't want to catch me.
You don't
out
want to
there.
go in there.
Oh, thank you.
No, even if you can swim, if you go in the wintertime, that's not a pleasant experience. It's very difficult to function in 30-degree water.
So you're not going in the polar plunge down in
No.
Channel 9?
No. I have divers that will be, but I won't be. I've been down to it a couple of times. That's a great fundraiser, and God bless those folks who come out year after year after year to do that.
I know, but ooh,
That is a cold afternoon, I can
Oh.
tell you.
I don't know, but I don't know. I just now there's no hunting right now per se, right, for you folks?
Other than coyotes, there isn't anything. And people don't do a lot of hunting for anything this
No.
time of year. It's too cold. They're watching football games and snow machine. We get a lot of snow machine, and this year we've had a lot of ice fishing.
Really?
Yeah, we've had a lot of that. And I think because we got ice and then the weather warmed up, so that's a good time to be out on it, people think. So we've had a lot of ice fishing.
What about the bob houses out there?
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of them out.
Really?
Yeah, there's a ton of them. Search and rescue has been busy, but that's always busy, so that never lets up.
I noticed this year though that the Cog Railway they had problems. They didn't dare go up the tracks this year.
Yeah,
This
not,
winter with
not
the,
as much. In the wintertime they didn't. They went up quite a bit this summer because they've got new diesel
But
trains.
didn't this fall or this winter with the rains or something? Didn't something
Right.
they did?
They didn't want to run that ski
No,
train that
no.
they did the year before. That's a treacherous business anyway.
Oh, I
that
hate it.
weather changes so dramatically up there. It can change in an hour. It's just unpredictable. So
I wouldn't be going up that thing.
no, no, it's not the time to go up there. Not in the wintertime. It just isn't. But people do it.
I
They
know
do
it.
it all the time.
I know.
Crazy.
So what are your thoughts on the legislature this year? Is going to be a big change, you think, there'll be after this happens?
No, I
next
think
fall?
it'll. I don't see anything there that's hugely controversial. I mean, sometimes, as you know, sometimes those things spin in a direction you don't plan on. But it started off. This session started off like most of them. I don't see a huge amount of controversy, brewing over there. So the new speaker seems to be doing well so far. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, it's still really early in the session. I notice there's a big push this year to get some of these bills through,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure why that is. Are they just trying to accelerate the whole program?
I don't know. I know there was so many bills from
Yeah.
last year that were just everything was table.
Yeah, and they had 800 some odd they filed this year, pieces of
Really?
legislation. Yeah.
Well, I filed one myself when it was coming up, but last year there was so much bickering.
Oh yeah.
Nothing was accomplished.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't get anything accomplished when that happens.
I didn't
yeah.
think anything was accomplished last
Yeah.
year. It was a really, to me, a wasted year.
Huh. That's too bad. Because it's a lot of money.
It is.
It's a lot of taxpayer dollars spent for that.
Yeah, it is. It was a very wasted session, I thought. I was disgusted with it.
Well, hopefully this year won't be like that.
No, I hope, but
Yeah.
we don't have sessions. I mean, I can remember the first couple of years I was in. My God, it seemed like we were meeting every week.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't meet much last 2 years, like this year.
Yeah.
We don't have a session scheduled now until maybe February 7th or something
A
like
house
that.
session?
Yep,
Really?
nothing scheduled.
Huh. I would think they'd
It's-
do that once a month at least.
Yeah, for a while we were doing it about every week.
Yeah. Huh.
They were having house sessions,
Yeah.
but not this year so far.
Huh.
So I don't know what's going on.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, because that can build up pretty quickly if you don't have them.
I know it. I know it. I'm telling you. So, but no, the fishing game. It seems to be like I read all that stuff, and you're having a spring day. Don't you have a spring day coming up in April?
We do on Earth Day weekend, or around Earth Day weekend, we do our what's called Discover Wild New Hampshire Day, which is it's really grown over the years. I think last year we had over 10,000 people there. It's a
Wow.
free event.
Yeah,
It's a great event to take
yeah.
your family and kids. There's all kinds of activities over there as it starts. They have animals there, raptors there. Some of the dog people are there for the trained dogs, hunting dogs. So it's the kids enjoy it. The governor comes. It's a big show, and it's been very popular over the years. And that'll be around April 22nd. Is usually when they have it. So, and they hold it right here at Fish and Game headquarters on Hazen Drive. So that's a great event to go to. Now we have sportsman shows going on every weekend all over New England that some of the officers are going to, a limited amount because we're short on staff, but I'm having some of them attend. So those are popular events.
Okay.
There's one in Burlington this weekend, I believe. So yeah,
Good.
it's a good time to go out, and it's a good time of year to have that
Oh yeah, exactly.
for people. So
We're coming to close around town, Nick Colonel, and it's good to have you here.
Oh, thanks.
Anytime, love to have you on. And any questions for him, don't be afraid to give him a call over there at Fish and Game, and he'll gladly answer them. And if not, he'll get the answer for you.
that's right. That's what we do.
So you have a great day.
too.
Thanks to Ian Marx, my director, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon on Around Town. I'm your host, Dick Patten.